The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time is widely regarded as one of the greatest games of all time, and that isn't far from the truth. When it released, it was the top of its class, and nothing could compare until its sequel dropped. When compared with modern games, of course Ocarina is, well, it's not aged very well. It's aged like a fine milk. The controls can feel a bit clunky, and it takes some effort to get used to, and that's especially apparent with the aiming mechanics and the camera controls. It's also not the prettiest looking game out there, I'll admit. Ew. Ew! These issues aren't necessarily that bad, though, and can be easily looked past. It's not like they're gonna hamper your entire experience with the game. If you really can't deal, though, and you're that much of a child, just go play the 3DS version. I mean, the gyroscope fixes all of the aiming problems, and the updated models and textures are absolutely incredible. The story in this game is also something else, and I don't think any game I've ever played in my life has been as thought-provoking and subtle in its approach to storytelling as Ocarina. You begin as Link in the Neverland of Kokiri Forest, where it's always day, nobody ages, and you're bullied relentlessly for being a freak without a fairy. Then you get a fairy. Great! You kill a guy and are sent by a big tree to save the world with 3 special rocks. Every dungeon you explore as a child takes something that seems small and insignificant. A tree, a cave, a big fish dude. Makes it all seem so huge and sprawling. Everything's so bright and happy and upbeat when you're a kid. There's always something new around the corner, always something underneath every rock. But all the NPCs make sure to make you feel like a worthless, dumbass kid, just like in real life. But also just like in real life, Ocarina has a very dark interior. Once you get the Master Sword, you grow up in the blink of an eye, and 7 years pass. While people treat you with the respect you'd expect to command as a fully realized adult hero of time, the world becomes infested with Ganondorf's evil and is warped by his influence. Much like when we eventually grow into adults, the world we once explored with a jovial and whimsical sense of excitement, we realize is very dark, depressing, and cynical. This guy tells you that he thinks you'd be better off working as a prostitute. This guy gets lost in the happy forest you grew up in and becomes a spooky, scary skeleton. Nabooru gets mind-wiped and then later objectifies you, and the tree tells you that your mom's dead. Link is told his destiny from the very beginning of the game, and despite all the scary shit and horrible people standing in his way, Link continues onwards. He could easily place the sword in its pedestal and just go home to the Kokiri Forest, or spend the rest of his days in Lake Hylia at the fishing hole, but he continues onwards. Why is that? It's because Link has the Triforce of Courage. Despite learning of the dark realities of his world, the Triforce of Courage gives him the will to dive into these deep, dark dungeons, fighting his inner demons and standing toe-to-toe with Ganon's minions, eventually with the King of Evil himself. This moment, right here at the end, when you plunge the Master Sword into Ganon's brain, is when Link finally wins. It's the metaphorical representation of growing up, taking responsibility, being accountable for your actions, being an adult. This moment is the perfect end to a perfect story. But then Zelda takes it all away. She takes all the growth you've done throughout the entire game and sends you back in time to being a shitty little kid again. In this game you don't get to win. That's my only gripe with it. That and the fucking water temple, oh my god. It's not a bad dungeon by any means, but Christ is it arbitrarily difficult, and it just seems to be thrown in right in the middle. This easily should have been the last dungeon. Darkling should have been the last boss too. I really want to sit down with Reggie and ask him what in the fuck he was thinking when he put this shit right in the middle of this goddamn game. I mean, at least the music's good. Well, all the music's good, really. Sometimes it'd be like... Then other times it'd go... But occasionally it's like... That's always good. Everything's good. What are you doing? Go play this fucking game already.